I think at the end of the day, like I said, it's all about having conversations. The more you talk to people about home ownership, where they are, where they want to be in life, in their local area, do they want to be closer to friends, family, whatever it is, you can generate listings just by being you and going out there and having these conversations. So important. Because I think at the end of the day, here's the reality of where we are right now. If you've followed along with us, you've heard us tell this story before. We call it the turn story.
Because the management and transparency is what's very important. So once you submit a referral, you're going to have your own Home Advantage account, and it's going to tell you where everything sits. So if you have 10 referrals that you've sent into the network, it's going to give you all 10 referrals. It's going to tell you every milestone that client is sitting in, whether they're touring homes, whether they're in escrow. And you now can manage through the Home Advantage application as far as what your pipeline looks like for the referrals that you've sent. And so it's pretty sophisticated, and it's all click of a button, guys.
Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. Good morning, wherever you're from. We're back. We've taken a little bit of a break over the holidays and in January about the market update with Keeping Current Matters. And David Childer has grown some hair and has gotten extremely younger. No, truthfully, David has got other projects he's working on, and Kate is taking over for him. So, Kate Rezabek, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you, Johnny. It's so great to be here. I'm doing fantastic. Love being here. Love getting to know this group a little bit more. At KCM, we think so highly of LabCoatAgents. So it's really an honor to be a part of this conversation today.
Oh, that's fantastic. Everybody does a great job in here, and we do try to stay civil most of the time.
Right.
So I'm excited about this, and I hope everybody else is excited about it too, because nobody really truly knows what's happening, right? And in my own experience, our market up here is off the hook crazy. We had a property list last week at 84 showings. This is Maine. 35 minutes from Portland, right? So a little bit rural. We get 20 some odd offers on it. Right.
That's wild.
But I talk to other people, they're like, oh, my property's been on the market for, 6 weeks. I can't get any activity on it. So as always, understand, folks, that the real estate market is regionalized, localized, right? So what KCM brings to you is what it looks like on a national economic snapshot. And those are the things that we're going to talk about today. Kate gave me a couple titles that we're going to talk about. 3 ways, and y'all going to want to hear this one. 3 ways to generate more listings. Headline-ish, that's what I called it, headline-ish, things that are in the headlines that actually don't mean what they say, which is clickbait, and that's just how they sell news. And if we got time, we're going to get into some foreclosure data. So let's get going with it, Kate. Floor is yours. Tell me what's going on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and share my slides. So there we go. All right. I think we are ready to get started. Well, here's the deal. I want to start with this quote right here from Donald Miller. It says, "People do not follow the best leaders."
Truth.
Hold on. Waiting for if you've ever wondered if this is live, it is. All right. They follow the ones they can understand the easiest. So what does that mean? We live in a world right now that is so power-packed with information. There's so many things coming at us from all different directions. You can Google anything, and people are going to follow or listen to what's easiest to understand. So it's more important than ever as an agent to be clear, simple, effective, and bring, the easiest message to understand based on the data and the facts. And my goal today, if we could anchor it in one simple thing, is to be able to bring you a clear and simple message on what's happening in the housing market right now and what you can go do to generate more business, because that's what's going to help your clients. And if we're all in this for the right reasons, that's exactly why we're here. So I want to start with that. People don't follow the best leaders. They follow the ones they can understand the easiest. So much confusion out there, and we want to bring clarity to that. So keep that thought in your back pocket, in your mind, as we walk through what we're doing today, because I think that's the essence of what we're trying to say. And I want to start with what Johnny mentioned, 3 ways to generate listings right now. Who doesn't want more listings, right? So I see your hand up. One of the biggest things that's happening right now is this confusion around inventory. If we think back to last year's housing market, inventory was certainly low, but mortgage rates really defined where the market went. They doubled over the course of the year, and that's what changed and shifted the market. Well, we're certainly not out of the woods in that space yet. We're seeing even a lot of volatility there, even over the past week or so. But there's a different factor that's really going to drive where the housing market goes in 2023. And I genuinely think that is inventory. We just don't have enough houses to meet demand. And as you were saying, you're starting to see some activity pick up, and we need to have listings to be able to sell. So what I'm going to walk you through next is where new listings are right now. We need to generate more listings, and then exactly how to go do that. So let's start with new listings. They are now below previous years. So this is going back to 2017, and it shows how listings generally start low at the beginning of the year, and then they climb up and start to kind of seasonally tail off towards the end of the year. That orange line, of course, is 2020, where everything was out of whack and very different. But if you look at that red line, that's where I want you to focus your attention right now, because that's new listings in 2022. So what does it show us? It shows us that listings started out historically low, and they started to rise throughout the year, and they started to get to that point where they may have eclipsed previous pre-pandemic years. And what did that trigger? That triggered a lot of conversation where people said, uh-oh, I see where this is going. We're going to have an oversupply of houses on the market. That's going to make prices crash. We're really in for it. And there was a lot of doom and gloom that was cast on the housing market as, if we end up with more inventory than we have buyers for, the market's going to crash. Well, what actually happened last year? Listings started to decrease. They came to market at a slower pace than before. And we ended the year in December with 21% fewer listings on the market than previous years. So inventory starting to decline at this point. We're feeling that pressure of, the only way to go into the spring market and to really have great success is to generate more listings, because you can't buy what's not for sale. So what I want to do today, setting this context on where inventory is, and then showing you how we can go generate more listings. So here's another snapshot of this. I really like this graph because it makes it really easy to consume. It says new listings now below previous years. This is a look at new listings that have come to market in January of each of the last 7 years. So 2017 all the way through this January. You can see we have fewer listings than we did last year at that time. Last year was historically low, and certainly before previous years and before pre-pandemic years. So, listings are low. We've got to go generate those. That is why, what we need to do as agents. And there's a lot of reasons for this. People are rate locked. They're like, I got a great rate on my house. I don't want to sell it. I don't want to lock into a higher interest rate. Or they're just confused and not sure that they'll find what they're looking for. Inventory is low. We don't have a lot of new listings, and homes staying on the market longer does not mean fresh new listings coming to the market. So what I'm going to walk you through here is 3 of the top conversations you can be having right now to be able to generate listings. And I want to park here for a moment because this is really, really important. It is all about conversations. Talking to your clients, to past clients, to people in your neighborhood, in your community, whoever it is, 3 big conversations to have. That's what's going to spark the dialogue to create listings. First one is diligently working expired listings. Homes staying on the market longer means they're going to expire. So if someone's listing expires, they may choose to go relist with the same agent again and keep their home on the market. And that is perfectly fine. Ethically, you let that go and you let them make that decision. But there are some people who are going to say, you know what? this just isn't my time. Maybe it wasn't meant to be right now, and they're going to pull their house off the market and just wait and relist it another time. Those are people you want to be talking to because for some reason they want to move. They made a decision at some point, and understanding what's the motivation, what's the underlier, and why you wanted to move in the first place. And maybe you can help in that space. Chances are their house wasn't priced competitively, or it needed some updates, or just wasn't in the condition that buyers are looking for right now. Buyers are being a little bit choosier at this moment. And to be able to help a homeowner kind of overcome those hurdles if they're ready to list with you is huge. And having those conversations, mission critical. And of course, some people are going to step into that space where they say, well, I can just do it on my own, for sale by owner. And you as an agent know exactly how complicated that can be for the homeowner, from negotiations to contracts and legal proceedings, all the things that go into selling a home and buying the next one. You can be that expert. And so to be able to go into these conversations is so important right now. You have to really position yourself with that heart of the teacher. We say that all the time. If you follow along with us, you've heard us say that before, is be the educated agent, be the trusted advisor, use the data to help people understand what they can do and how you can support them. Because no doubt we need more listings. And if you are the person they can turn to with the insights, the information, you're the professional stepping in to help, then they can make powerful and confident decisions. We have a quote, I'm standing here in our studio and it's right up on the wall. It says, "We believe every family should feel confident when buying and selling a home." That is what we firmly believe in. And you can be that person if you help those who are in this transition of, is it the right time? Should I list on my own? What is that answer? Have those conversations right now. So that's the first one. I think the second one is talking with your clients about the equity they have in their home. Huge, huge opportunity. Homeowners are sitting on record amount of equity right now, and they just oftentimes don't know that. They don't realize how much equity they have and what that can do to fuel their future and to fuel a potential move. So let me share with you the latest CoreLogic home equity report. This is from Q3 of 2022. So I hear you when you say some things have changed since Q3 of last year, but this is the latest data we have. And what we know is that over the past year, from Q3 of 22 to Q3 of 2021, home prices appreciated very significantly, and homeowners are sitting on an average of $34,000 in equity gain over that year. Now, if they've been in their home longer, it's significantly more than that. But in that year's time, an increase of 15.8% in equity. So that's huge. And if people don't realize that, they may be holding off on their plans to sell their house and make a move, or downsize if they have something that's bigger than what they really need, or whatever that may be. There's a lot of opportunity for people to leverage their equity right now. And chatting with people about this is huge. And here's a great visual that I would show too. This is the percent change in home prices over the past 5 years for the average homeowner. An increase of 60% on average in just 5 years. And, many homeowners have been in their homes much longer than that. I think the average tenure right now is roughly around, somewhere between 8 and 10 years. And so home ownership grows over time. And as people are sitting on more and more equity, they have options. They may not realize that. So talk to homeowners who talk to them about their equity, do a professional equity report, all of those things, mission critical. And then the third thing is talk to people who have moved over the past couple of years. I'm going to flash up here a few headlines that we've seen in the media that I think are pretty telling. Some people who bought during the pandemic bought in a frenzy. They rushed to buy in the pandemic, and here's what they would change. Or they bought their first home during COVID and now they regret it. Whatever it is, I certainly don't think everyone who bought a home over the past couple of years is unhappy with it. I think everyone who buys a home, 5-6 months in is probably like, oh gosh, I wish my pantry was bigger, or I had a different layout, or, I sacrificed and I didn't get that really big yard that I wanted. There's all these things that someone may do differently next time. But during the pandemic, we had a different environment where people were buying, in many cases, sight unseen, or, in a hurry. They'd been outbid so many times. They were just like, I need to just get a home. And for some people, not the majority, but for some people, they got into situations that now they just feel differently about. And they're like, gosh, I wish I hadn't rushed. Wish I hadn't been under that pressure. I wish I hadn't made this decision. So talking with people who bought over the past couple of years, hey, you bought a home. How's it going? How'd that work out for you? How do you like it? You can get into conversations where you might find someone that you can help. And you can help them make a change, because if they're not comfortable with where they landed in this process, you can be that teacher, that educator who can help them get into a different situation. And that may be the third way that you can go out and generate listings. And, I think at the end of the day, like I said, it's all about having conversations. The more you talk to people about home ownership, where they are, where they want to be in life, and their local area. Do they want to be closer to friends, family, whatever it is? You can generate listings just by being you and going out there and having these conversations. So important, because I think at the end of the day, here's the reality of where we are right now. If you've followed along with us, you've heard us tell this story before. We call it the turn story. And, think about the housing market like a race car driver thinks about the race. Anybody can go for it on the straightaway. Anybody can drive a race car down the track straight away as fast as you can go. That's what the housing market was like during the pandemic. We were all flying forward at 100 or much more than 100 miles an hour, and anybody can drive that car. But the race car drivers that win races, that win championships, they're the ones who accelerate through the turn. They're strategic. They pick their line. They know their plan. They are making their moves inside the turn. And, right now, the housing market, we're in that turn. We're in a different place. You see all of these headlines about how the housing market is different than it was last year, 2 years ago, pre-pandemic. It is in a very, very different place. And if you're the agent who is creating your plan, who is reaching out to expired listings, who is talking to people about their equity, talking to people who've moved over the past couple of years, having those conversations, crafting your plan, and doing things differently than maybe you did on the straightaway, you're going to win in 2023. And no doubt, it's going to be a challenging year. We see the complexities of mortgage rates, inflation, prices, inventory. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces. But if you have your plan, you're the educated agent, you understand what the data is saying, and you're there as the teacher to support your clients and support your community, you're going to find success and win that championship as you come through the turn. So I'm going to pause right here for a moment, Johnny, and see if there's any thoughts, questions, things you want to follow up on before we go into our next section.
Well, I'm just going to say all those activities. And I just actually had this conversation with my director of ops or director of growth, that we have been, in some respects, our expectations are out of a line when we expect to go to an appointment and get the sale, right? Where right now we got to play for the long game, because people are unsure of what's happening in the market. People are, if you're selling a home and buying a home, that's going to take an expert, right? That's going to take some coddling. So you got to work yourself through that, because if you're selling a home, you're going to have 24 offers, which means the home you go to buy is probably going to have 24 offers, right? Or 2 or 5 or 6 or whatever the number, right? It's arbitrary. So to understand that, play the long game. Our entire business is built upon nurturing these conversations. So have these conversations, but you got to do the work. It's all mathematics. If you got to have 10 conversations per day, have 10 conversations per day. You just laid out some of the framework to be able to do that. So, but yeah, absolutely. I want to touch on this. You said a word, and this has been my word this week: expert. Because my Facebook post at some point in the past week or 10 days was, if you want to be an expert, just start telling everybody you're an expert. That's branding. That's marketing, right? So take the data that you're talking about. I took screenshots while you're doing this because I'm going to do something with it. Okay? You can do something with it. I'm going to make a video. I'm going to make a green screen video. You can use the green screen app on TikTok or Facebook, what's the other one called? The Instagram, right? I want to use the green screen and the edit on my phone. But anyways, you can do that too and say, hey, listen, everybody's talking about the real estate market. Look at this. This is a national statistic. People are saying the market's going to crash, but there's no inventory. There's no inventory. So if you're thinking about selling your house, click on my link in the bio. You can get a free market analysis right now, right here. Bang, like that. I won't bother you. If it makes sense to you, reach out to me. Right now, if somebody emails you, that's a sure thing. Right. So you got to position yourself as the expert. Be different than the other 10 million agents in your market. Right. Just start telling people you're the expert. And the data, and here's the thing, you are an expert. Because you're using an expert team at Keeping Current Matters because they have dozens of people doing the research for you that actually understand it. All you have to do is be semi-literate and regurgitate it back to the general public. And now you're an expert too.
That's so true. And I appreciate you calling out our research team because we do work incredibly hard to really vet through the data, make sure it's exactly what you need, and take it to that point where it's easy to understand. Because as the expert, you want to be the one who's simple and effective and clear. And in that message, if those things come together for you, that's where you're going to make the difference. So I love everything about that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't see any questions, so we can move on to the next. Anyways, we don't let them ask too many questions. Let's start asking us what CRM to use.
Love you. Oh, that's great. All right, let's talk about the second topic here. This is headlines do more to terrify than clarify. You saw a couple of headlines that I popped up a moment ago. I'm going to show you some more. But as I mentioned at the beginning, there's so much information around us and so much kind of coming at us from all different directions. And a lot of times it's hard for your clients to sort through that. We see all these things that make the market sound like it's a very scary place. And it certainly doesn't have to be. And sometimes these headlines are factually true, but understanding the context behind them is key. And that can be the differentiator for your clients because people will put their plans on hold when they see something that looks scary. But what they see is not always the full picture. So let's start right here. This is data that we found put out by the Harris poll, and it says 67% of Americans say a housing market crash is imminent in the next 3 years. 67%. This is very recent data. So that's 2 out of every 3 consumers think the market's going to crash. Of course, that's going to make people pause their plans, say, I'm not ready to list my home. I'm not going to make a move. I'm going to stay where I am and just wait this out. And, the reason that a lot of people think that is because they see headlines that aren't the full story. So let me share a couple of examples with you that I think really paint this picture. So these came up just about a month ago, and we have, U.S. foreclosure filings surged 115% in 2022. U.S. foreclosure activity doubles annually, but still below pre-pandemic levels. Foreclosure filings rose 115% in the past year. When people hear foreclosure, they think 2008. And when it looks like 115% increase in a year, that sounds massive. That sounds like, this is headed for a crash again. So when you think back to 2 out of 3 people think this, that's a lot of where this information comes from. And when you look at this data, this is factually true. But what I'm going to break down for you is what the report actually says where this is coming from and some visuals to help show that, because that's where the clarity comes in. So let's start with this quote from Adam. It says, Adam, a leading curator of real estate data nationwide for land and property data. This is a source that we follow very, very closely. Today, this was in January, released its year-end 2022 U.S. foreclosure market report, which shows foreclosure filings, default notices, scheduled auctions, and bank repossessions were reported on 324,237 U.S. properties in 2022. Up 115% from 2021. That's what you saw in those headlines. But down 34% from 2019. That's what you didn't see in those headlines before the pandemic shook up the market. Foreclosure filings in 2022 were also down 89% from a peak of nearly 2.9 million in 2010. So there's so much packed in here. The media clicked into up 115%. That is factually true. But the context of what this report shows you is that it's still down 34% from pre-pandemic levels and nowhere near what it was in 2010 when the most foreclosure filings per year were listed in this country. So let me show you what that looks visually. And I think this is really a game changer. This says US foreclosure activity doubles annually, but is still below pre-pandemic levels. So this is true. If you look at those dark red bars, those were years in this country where there are over 1 million foreclosure filings per year. So from 2007 to 2015, over 1 million filings per year. Now, 2.9 million was the peak in 2010. You saw that in the data. But look over on the right of what we're actually talking about of where we are today. In 2020 and 2021, there were record low numbers of foreclosure filings. We had, the forbearance program, a moratorium on foreclosures. People had significant equity so they could sell to avoid foreclosure. And so when you go from 150,000 to just over 300,000, yeah, it's 115% increase. And it doubled annually. But look at it comparatively to historical context. Nowhere near epic crash proportions, but that's what people think when they hear these numbers. And so our hearts go out to any one of those 324,000 families or homeowners who had to go through this process last year. We never want anyone to have to go through foreclosure, but it's nowhere near where we were when the market was crashing. We're just not talking about that. We have a different landscape in today's housing market. And when you zoom in on this just a little bit more, you can see we had over 1 million fewer foreclosures over the last 3 years than we did just compared to our normal year. Every year in this country, unfortunately, homeowners go through the foreclosure process. And what you see on the left side of this graph, 2017, 2018, 2019, pre-pandemic, we averaged almost 600,000 foreclosures per year. And so, if you look over at where we were in 2020, 21, and 22, we didn't even hit an average pre-pandemic year, record lows. So the increase from 2022, 21 to 2 is alarming, but it's nowhere even near a normal year. And that's the context that we have to provide for people when they see headlines like this in the media. It's just a completely different landscape. And as I mentioned a moment ago, there's several reasons for that. This is a quote from Rick Sharga, an expert that we follow for sure. It says 18 months after the end of the government's foreclosure moratorium, and with less than 5% of the 8.4 million borrowers who entered the CARES Act forbearance program remaining, foreclosure activity remains significantly lower than it was prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. It seems clear that government and mortgage industry efforts during the pandemic, coupled with a strong economy, have helped prevent millions of unnecessary foreclosures. And that is the truth, absolutely. From, having the forbearance program to people gaining that record amount of equity and being able to sell their house and walk away versus go into the foreclosure process, we're in a different place. And with inventory as low as it is today, too, any home that would potentially go to foreclosure is going to be scooped up instantly because inventory is so low. And so there's a lot of reasons why, 2 out of 3 consumers think the market's going to crash, but the data just doesn't support that. And I think this quote from Bill McBride really sums it up. He's someone who kind of saw the writing on the wall as the last housing market crash was coming. He says, the bottom line is there will be an increase in foreclosures over the next year from record low levels. That's where we were. But there will not be a huge wave of distressed sales as happened following the housing bubble. The distressed sales during the housing bust led to cascading price declines, and that will not happen this time. And I think everything we see from equity to prices to inventory really supports that, people have a different situation. They can get back on their feet right now, and we're in a different market. The reality of it is we have to control the narrative. When there's these headlines out there that are factually true but confusing, it causes your clients to press pause. We certainly don't want that to happen. But being the expert is the differentiator. And I'll end on, this right here. Maybe not. There it is. There's 2 kinds of agents in the market right now. There's the confident agent and the confused agent. And the confident agent is looking at this data, looking at this context, understanding the insights, and educating their clients on what's going to happen. They're saying, I get it. I understand what's happening. I can step into this space and I can lead confidently and help my clients. Whereas the confused agent is saying, I don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot going on. Let's just hold off and see. There's two different agents. And what I want you to be able to do, step confidently into that confident agent space with the data and everything you need to be that trusted advisor in your market, because that's what's going to make the difference in 2023 as we accelerate through that turn.
Yeah, man, that is good stuff. And listen, a lot of people are worried that the market's going to crash. David and I talked about this at length, two particular parts. One is everybody that went into any kind of forbearance, the majority of people are out, right? Or they have a plan. The majority of people are out. So all these people saying, but what about all these loans that went into forbearance? The majority of them are out. So what about them? And then the second thing is the circumstances that existed back in the 07, 08 crash don't exist today, right? You needed the strengthening of the criteria of the lending criteria, fix that. So you're no longer, Fannie, they tried back then with the buy and bail rule and these other things, but now you have to verify all, your income. It's no longer do you fog a mirror and then you're getting a home, right? The 80-20 no doc, that doesn't necessarily exist anymore. And people are buying homes left and right. So those programs that when the market started to turn, they could just walk away and be like, yeah, I'm out. Those don't exist, or if they do exist, they're mitigating circumstances of why they exist. And you best have good credit and some validating assets to back up that you say you make $3 billion a year, right? If you say you're making this exorbitant amount of money, pardon me, but have no assets to show, that's probably a lie. Right. That's what the bank's looking at now. So these things don't exist. So when when your consumer is saying, oh, the market's going to crash, I watch the headlines, you have to have the confidence, just like this says, to be able to say, well, my data shows something completely different. Right. And take back that narrative and say, this doesn't exist. Loans and forbearance are out. Here's some charts to show where we are. Foreclosures may have doubled. Foreclosure activity may have doubled. It's still ridiculously low, and it's the second lowest year in the past 2 decades.
Right. That's so true. And like you mentioned, we have a much more qualified buyer right now, and that has changed the landscape over time, not even just in the past few years, but you can really see how, fewer and fewer foreclosures each year has really put homeowners in a better position. And, I think the market's in a better position as a result too. So great points. I'm glad you brought those up.
Yeah, for sure. Let me just check online, see if we have any questions in the LabCoat group. Hopefully they just let us get out of this one easy and then they don't hit us with too many hard questions. Because it's Friday. Nobody wants hard questions on a Friday.
Well, I'm always happy to take questions, but I reserve the right to say I'm going to go find the answer for you and come back too.
And honestly, that right there is the greatest answer. I know that we have a lot of newer agents that watch. That right there is the most powerful answer you can ever give somebody because it's honest. And what you're doing is showing that you listened to the person. So they're feeling that you're listening and they're being heard, and you're giving the impression, I don't know, you're being vulnerable and authentic, but let me get the answer for you, right? That right there is the most powerful thing, because I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I know where to find them.
Yeah, we've got a great team on our side to help with that for sure.
And everybody can be taking this data. You can go to keepingcurrentmatters.com. You can borrow some of their blogs and some of their data. They're not going to mind. But if you really want to get the more deeper stuff and get more content and get it delivered to you and have some stuff, maybe even auto post for you, whatever like that, you can try them out for 14 days, I heard. How do they do that?
That is a great question. So you can go to keepingcurrentmatters.com and you can try a free 14-day trial. And that gives you access to everything we have within our suite, from blogs to social graphic content for your social media feed. There's everything that you can try out. We do a monthly market report, which is very similar to this conversation here, but we go real deep, give you all the slides, all the things that you need to just truly be that market expert. You can try out our video product as well. So we have a product called Real Talk
that's
literally
freaking awesome too. I saw that last week. I'm like, that's freaking awesome. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Let me tell you quickly about it. So it is an app on your phone. And what you do is you open up the app. There's a teleprompter right there for you. I should use my phone as an example. Teleprompter right there for you. We have expertly written a script that's 60 seconds or less. You get to customize the intro to say, whatever you want on the intro, customize the outro with your call to action. You read it off the teleprompter, the right chart or visual or graph pops up, and then you hit the record button. And when you're done, it exports it all for you. You can go ahead and post it on social media. You can text it to your clients. You can put it in your CRM. You can do all of those different things. No editing, no tech experience required. We release 3 of those every Thursday. So great way to get yourself out on video.
So Keeping Current Matters has removed all of your excuses and friction. And now it's easy. You just hit a button, you read what's there, and become the expert.
Sounds good to me, right?
Cool. Well, that's our time for now, guys. I would really consider this into, people always asking me, and I had a podcast today or a webinar or whatever about, what to post on social media, what not to post on social media. Nobody cares about your dog. Nobody cares about your cats, unless that's your channel that's dedicated to cats and dogs. You'll get some followers. People want to work with somebody that's knowledgeable. People want to work with somebody that knows what they're talking about, that's connected to the community. Okay, they want to work with somebody that they know, like, and trust. So you want to put out content. You don't need to put out 3 pieces of content a day. You need to put out 3 or 4 good pieces of content per week. If you put out 3 or 4 good pieces of content per week, that starts the conversation. That allows your sphere to see that you're active on social media. That allows you to engage in the most important thing in this business, which is the conversation about real estate. Because at the end of the day, as somebody that has coached hundreds of people, it all comes down to conversations, and you need to have 10 of them per day. Anyways.
Absolutely.
Kate, Rezabek, Keeping Current Matters. Thank you for being here. Yeah. Everybody, I hope you found value in this. Go to LabCoatAgents and subscribe if you haven't already, and follow what we're doing. Peace out, everybody.
Thank you so much.